Hello, Joe Black here. We are back for Joe Black Meets episode 2, and I am joined by the glorious Mason Alexander Park. I just want to start by saying thank you all for the reception and the support on the Joe Lice episode, and the fact that this podcast happened. It's been really, really lovely, and I didn't expect it. It was very much a passion project where I just sort of wanted to do it, and I didn't expect it to be received as well as it is. But of course, that's a lovely surprise, and I'm very, very pleased. So please do continue rating and subscribing, and please sharing the word, spreading the word, all of that sort of stuff. It's I'm overjoyed. So thank you all very much. And as before. There is no sponsor at this point of this intro recording, so if you do want to support me, I'm on tour with my show Club Cataclysm across the UK and Ireland in October and November. Tickets available from my website, that's mrjoeblack.com. That's M-I-S-T-E-R, not just M-R. And also at the time of recording this, the Sandman was not released on Netflix, so there's not any spoilers for it, but we do talk about the Sandman with Mason, who is, of course, playing the part of Desire of the Endless. So yes, I should just hand us over to me and Mason now. This was so fun to record. Hope you love it. Okay, right. Here we go. Goodbye. Hello. So you're in the United Kingdom. Yes. Which non-binary adaption character are you here to take now? You are dominating the market. Which anime, graphic novel, cartoon, sci-fi reboot, non-gender specific character are you doing this? You're not leaving room for any other non-binary actor. The gender non-conforming roles, it's you. You've killed everyone else.
I murdered them all. Yeah, well, it really helps. Yeah, if you just kill the competition, I find.
Just hoping Ezra Miller fucks up one more time.
All I need is one more arrest, and then I think I'm the new Flash. I think that's how it works. I honestly I'm very interested in this new Doctor Who cast. I think that it's really cool that the two new, like, very poignant characters are played by, such visibly queer people, as well as, like, being queer outwardly in real life. It's just cool that the characters themselves, it's like probably going to be very hard to hide their queerness.
What we're saying is, you're looking at me, there's a hunger in your eyes, and you're thinking, you know people at the BBC, Joe. You know people at the BBC. They may not take you seriously, but you know people at the BBC. You go to those people and you say, I've got a friend.
Yeah.
I got a friend. They do act. They've done sci-fi. They're ready. They're willing. And they're able. That's what you want to happen, isn't it?
Quite. That's exactly. That's the only reason that I'm here right now.
That's the only reason. So you're not in the UK for working at the moment.
No, we've here to lobby for a job through you.
And you're for fun. You're for fun.
Yes, I am actually here for fun. I'm here with my partner is shooting a series for the BBC and Disney Plus, and so I am just here kind of being the housewife on set, like just hanging around.
Cheerleading at the side. You were saying we of course we should have recorded everything, but we went for lunch earlier, and you were saying that you're being very helpful with Alice, and was I okay? And you go, not your best work. So you're here as a grounding.
Yes, you gotta keep people grounded, and a great technique is just to really shit on them.
Just fuck them right up.
Just destroy them. No, Alice is so funny because she's really grown a lot. In all the times that I've come and like spent time with them on set, I've loved watching kind of them metamorphosize in a strange way. You know, she's like much more receptive to me being around now and like actively wants feedback, which is maybe terrifying at times because I'm like, do you want me to be honest or do you want, which is amazing because, you know, I think that
You want the nice answer or
do
you want the true
yeah,
answer?
You want the true answer? She's a remarkable actor though, so it makes it very easy to sort of just be like, yeah, that was awesome. That was so cool. And the projects that, you know, that they're working on right now are really, really fun and very cool to be around. So it makes like long days on set kind of being the wifey wench, you know, in the corner. Like it makes it a lot of fun because I get to watch
And
cool
you can
shit.
take it all in. It's nice to see
Yeah.
other people work as well and seeing
Yeah.
their process. But so the last time I saw you, not this time you were in London. You were over filming a series that by the time this comes out is soon going to be out.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that in a second. But we followed each other on Instagram, and I don't actually know how that started.
Well, you were, and through some research in the latter years, I realized you were one of the first people that I ever followed on Instagram back in like 2012.
My goodness.
Yeah, it was when I was in high school, like towards the end of high school, it would have been 2012, like my last year. I was in the middle of like, I had just watched a bunch of Drag Race, and like I was finally having like an understanding, I think, of things that I enjoyed about drag as an art form and also just kind of about like performance art and theater. And I remember like falling in love with Cabaret, the musical, and falling in love with all of these different things around that time and kind of like wanting to do Rocky Horror and wanting to do all of these very specific kind of gender fucky, you know, musicals.
Oh, we'll talk about how that turned out.
Yeah. and I somehow came across your Instagram around that time because I literally, like, if you go back, Instagram will show you chronologically who you followed, and it's like friends from high school, maybe like 30 people, Joe Black. Friends from high school. And because I remember I saw an image of you in like the high-waisted pant with like the fur stole kind of a thing and a cigarette and a top hat, I think. And I remember just being like, oh my God, that is a really cool aesthetic. And I saw that you just had all of this, like you were a well-rounded performer, that you weren't just like.
I didn't know this. I did.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember how it happened.
Yeah. I remember for the both of us.
Because then, you know, we had spoken a bit, and then you just sort of randomly messaged me. I think maybe I replied to something, and you went, "Oh, by the way, I'm gonna be in London.
Yeah.
Let's do something." So we did.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, so why are you here?" And you were like, "Oh, I'm overshooting Netflix's adaptation of the Sandman." And I was like, right, now I'm familiar with that. And what's the character? And you're like, oh, Desire. I was like, oh, that sounds gorgeous. Yeah. I'm very unfamiliar with the source material. And I've since researched. I've the Audible. Other places are available. No, it's only available on Audible actually.
Yeah.
Audible actually. Researched it and looked into it and it is ever so exciting. Now I'm like, it's nice because I think you gave me the excuse to like read into it, and now I'm very excited about it because there's like a friend of mine is in it, and then looking into it, I'm like, this is very me. I don't know why it's because I never read graphic novels. That was never my or comic books. That was never my thing. But now it's obviously being turned into a series, and they did the Audible dramatization, and you are sexy and evil, essentially.
Yeah, a little bit of everything. It's the fun thing about the endless, you know, the family that is the Sandman books kind of, you know, are centered around as 7 siblings. And for those of you at home listening who haven't read it, but the endless, they are anthropomorphic, you know, representations of a thing and
part of the human
condition,
human condition or the world.
Exactly. And so we're all, you know, representative of the thing and also characterizations of that. And so when you're kind of like trying to map out, what the character does or who the character is. Really, you just kind of have to like break it down to the very thing that you're discussing. And so like desire is such a fickle, like it can be anything. It can be positive or
that's
negative.
what I've learned is that
Yeah.
it's learning like dream. It's not just the fact of just dreaming. It's that dreams create things and,
Yeah.
and it affects the real world. And desire is like a base thing. It's not just desire as in lust.
Yes.
It's just there's so many facets of all of it, and you're in it. I mean, it's not out at the moment, so I guess we can't say too much, but it's very accurate to the graphic novel, the original source material.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of first look stuff out there that's sort of, I think, given people an idea or a clue as to how visually accurate, certain things are. And there were many scenes where we would take panels from the actual comics and kind of refer to the choreography or refer to the visual element of, the world that we had already were in the midst of building, but using that to kind of like be the magic dust that you pour on top of it at the end, where you're like, okay, and now like do the thing that's kind of in this panel, because eagle-eyed fans or people who even just like kind of are familiar with imagery from it might evoke a memory of being like, oh, I remember when I first read it and I saw Desire in the cat suit like laying on their back.
Well,
and
also,
like we do that.
Well, it's I mean, if it's such a striking image is that also for people like me who are not familiar with it, that will maybe see this and then go back.
Right.
They'll that moment, like if it's it's such a striking thing, and that was one of the images that was released was you lounging back with the cat ears and like gorgeous. Was that, and then that image they'll look back and go and they'll remember that from the show and then see it in the thing. And it's because I don't read a lot of graphic novels or comic books, so I get excited enjoying a character in something and then finding out where they're from. So as an example, like Agatha in WandaVision, like not comic books, they're not there. And then when she says, "I'm Agatha Harkness, dear," I paused it. And I was like, right, I'm going to see why this is important. Because that felt like a moment. I looked it up and I was like, now I can see why this is very exciting. And then she sang a lovely song.
Little ditty.
We'll come back to Sandman, because there's a journey before that. You said, you got into Cabaret and Rocky Horror and all of those sort of roles. And again, you're not leaving room for anyone else to breathe, because you are taking those roles, aren't you? You've been Frankenfurter, you've been Hedwig, you've been the Emcee in Cabaret, you've been an evil maid in evil nanny in Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
That's not on your credit list necessarily. I don't. That's not one of the first ones that pop up. I don't know. Were you hiding that?
No, that was how I was so proud of that show. It was how I got my equity card, like back in the States. It was the first really like big professional, musical that I had ever been a part of. And I'm not really right for Mary Poppins. There's no like role that you would put me in.
So nowadays you're like, I'm playing the manifestation of desire, but I used to be.
Yeah, but I
Mary
used
Poppins.
to be an 80-year-old nanny in Mary Poppins. I just, like I wouldn't play any of the traditional gendered roles, and I think that what was really cool, it came to me at a part of my life where I was sort of toying with gender in more of a drag context, more of a performance artist context, and less like in day to day. I was kind of like an androgynous human, but I wasn't necessarily like identifying with certain terminology or anything that would like explain my current expression.
I love that. Anything that would let people know what is going on.
Correct. Yeah. I think I just left them with the with all the question marks in their mind.
Good.
But as one should. But I auditioned for that was Pittsburgh CLO, and I like auditioned for this musical summer season. You kind of like go in for the whole like season of musicals, and they try to see where they can slot you in. And they were doing like The Wedding Singer, and I would have been like a perfect Boy George in The Wedding Singer, and that didn't happen. But the director of Mary Poppins, who had done it before, I guess she had always sort of had this dream that someone really scary would play the nanny, because it is a kind of spooky role, and she's mean and aggressive.
Well, for people who aren't familiar, in the she's sort of not really in the film. She sort of briefly comes out, and she like passes them on the stairs and storms out. But so I'm not that familiar with the stage show version. So I found it because I was researching villain songs for my villain show, and they have a brilliant song called Brimstone and Treacle. So yeah, it's very like, imagine the most stereotypical, oh, I'm evil, but I'm also a normal person, evil. That there's nothing magical about them. They're just a very mean old woman, right?
Yes, yeah. She's like, because the idea is that it's Mr. Banks's nanny from when he was a kid, and so he's in his 50s, and so she's like 70, and is just mean and hard. And in the story of like the musical, basically the end of Act 1 is Mary Poppins abandoning the family. She's like, I'm out of here. Y'all are all kinds of fucked up, and I'm going. And like,
imagine,
I wish she said
they were all kinds of fucked up. I'm off. Mary out.
Tellio. Yeah, no, she just like straight up abandons the children and the family.
Fuck you, and fuck you.
Puff of smoke. But so then the second act begins with everybody being like, what are we gonna do? Mary Poppins hates us. Like, we need a new nanny. And so they call Mr. Banks's nanny, because Mrs. Banks is like, I've heard all of these great stories about this woman. We should just have her come back. And then she appears and is like Satan, and they're like, oh my God, we fucked up big time. And so she gets that great.
We made a mistake.
Yeah, we made a mistake. And that's when Brimstone and Treacle like comes in, and then there's like another song, and then Mary Poppins like literally kills her, and then it's the end.
With singing.
Yeah, they have a sing off. It's a bit of a sing off.
But everyone's trying to get higher and higher. It's like Christine in Phantom of the Opera when they keep going, keep singing. She goes, oh!
Yeah.
But it's that, and it just it's so ridiculous. And this is available on. You can find this online. So Brimstone and Treacle, and then there's Brimstone and Treacle Part 2. I think it's probably called. But I'm finding it hard to imagine you as a sort of 70, 80-year-old old Northern woman. Yeah. Because I don't know what you did about the accents.
Oh no, it was pretty good. I'll find a video and I'll send it to you. It was hilarious.
You children have been spoiled.
Yeah, it was insane and very intense. But I was 18 years old, or I think turning 19 that summer, and so it was like really one of my first experiences in that big of a professional production with a bunch of like Broadway talent and that kind of thing. And it was it was weird and kind of, I think, set this now expectation that I'm living up to of like doing very strange, like kind of dastardly characters that are not assigned any specific sort of sense of gender.
Well, I mean, so Evil Maid to which one came next? Was it Rocky? No.
Yeah, I did Rocky Horror next a few times, and I had done it in like high school. We did a production of it, but
you Frankenfurter there as well.
Yeah,
You've been typecast.
I'm so locked in, but yeah, I've done Frank about 4 times now, and one of those was high school, and the rest was all professional. And so Frank would have been next, and then I did like a show called Altar Boys, which is about like a Christian boy band for about 6 months.
You weren't evil in that one.
No.
That's why
I was sweet. Oh, I was so gentle.
That's why we don't
one.
hear about that.
That's why no one hears about it. Yeah, I was a sweet, gentle, like closeted gay kid that sort of like has this incredible sort of and I am telling you moment. Like it's very the big 11 o'clock number, and there's so many references to all the great divas, and the song is structured where like the character's finally going to tell the audience, you think that they're finally going to come out, and instead they just come out as a Catholic. And it's so stupid. It's like all of this build up and all the innuendos are like very gay, and you're kind of like, oh my God, finally they're going to tell us. They're going to tell us that Mark has been gay all along. And then he's like, I'm a Catholic.
Well, absolute sacrilege.
It's so sacrilege.
The Christian rock stuff, a total curveball here. But I forget that like Evanescence is often used as like Christian rock.
Yeah.
Because when I think of Evanescence, I just think of kind of naff goth stuff. And I love it. And I say naff goth with all of the love in the world as a naff goth myself.
Yeah,
Do you know the word naff?
I don't. Tell me more.
Okay, now it's a bit shit. Essentially, is what NAF means. But it's not like that is shit. It's
Yeah.
like it's a bit. When something's a bit off, a bit naff.
I love that.
I have to sometimes check when talking to you across the pond folk.
Foreigners.
You bloody Americans coming over here doing our Disney Plus series. And Netflix, that's you. Alice is between you and Alice.
Between the two of us. Yeah.
Evanescence I always think of sort of as they're used in weird Christian rock bands a lot, aren't they? I find that Bring Me to Life is, you see these, like, if you search up for like covers of it, you just see these sort of Christian rock stars in these stadiums going, how can you see into my eyes? So then you did that, and then when right, so Hedwig. Well, see, there's curveballs happening there. So you did that, and then is Hedwig after the Emcee?
No, Hedwig was before. Hedwig would have been next. So I did all of that while I was in college, and then I graduated school. And part of the reason that I went to school was because of Hedwig. Essentially, I'd been working in television back in LA when I was in high school, doing like Nickelodeon, kind of kids stuff. And
is this when we find that you were some really specific Nickelodeon character that people are like, are you a meme or anything? I don't.
I wish. No, I wish I could just like reveal that I was, someone of any value. But I was I was very inconsequential in the Nickelodeon universe.
Sometimes you meet people that like as a kid did something really strange.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know if you have it. So there's Green Giant canned vegetables in the UK, and then I was at a meet and greet of a show, and then it was this two people, and then the one of them said as a kid they were the kid from the Green Giant advert, and then she was like, say it, and then he like said the line from it, and I was like, ah ha 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 ha, and then we had a fight with him. So that's what I was imagining for you. I was a Nickelodeon kid, and then maybe you turned out to be some like infamous.
Yeah, no memes were made about me. I was on a few different Nickelodeon shows kind of at the same time, playing different characters, but they all were named Toby.
Oh.
Which is why I ended up naming my cat Toby.
So I don't get a Toby vibe from you.
I don't get a Toby vibe from me either, but apparently casting directors did, all in the same like few months.
Nice.
And, which was kind of hilarious, but they were all very queer, incredibly queer characters that like, you just didn't talk about it back then.
You've been typecast.
Yeah, it was very coded.
But anyway, yes, sorry, I cut you off there just
No.
to talk about strange children actors, because I
love
thought there was going to be a dramatic reveal.
I'm so sorry.
Carry on, sorry, I apologize.
But no, dramatic reveal notwithstanding, I basically came to like a crossroads in my own mind where I was like, do I go and study theater and kind of take time off from television, or do I do the thing that like I saw so many of my peers doing, where they basically didn't go to college and they just stayed in Los Angeles and kept working as actors? And I was like, I could just do that. And then I found Hedwig and Cabaret and those kinds of things around the same time. And there was a part of it that was like, that's why I should go to school. I should go to school to study acting, because there are actual roles in the theater that I think I would really be good at and would really want to play. And I feel like people will take me a little more seriously if I go to a drama school and all of that.
I think characters like Hedwig particularly, I mean, Frankenfurter's a bit different because it's more like in your face, far more sexualized, whereas Hedwig is, I mean, not to be offensive to Rocky Horror, but Frank doesn't have as much depth.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, there is like a level of it, but they are essentially what they are. You know, they are there. They're an alien that they're sort of horrible to everyone and then wants to go home. You know, I mean, that is fair, right?
I think so.
Yeah. And Hedwig is so much more nuanced, and I think speaks more to people's hearts. And I think a lot of queer people probably end up in theatre because of characters like Hedwig, and so that drew you to it, and then you ended up being Hedwig, but in lots of iterations. So you were an understudy.
Right.
I mean, what's the I don't know in the order in which things went.
No, that would have been the first thing. I graduated school, and we they take a lot of musical theater programs take their graduating class to New York City, and you do some sort of showcase for casting directors and different folks. So we had that. And the next day, there was an open call for like that they were just seeing actors for Hedwig and the Angry Inch, and I was like, I'm gonna go to that and just see. And I've known so few people that I've ever actually booked a job doing like an EPA, just doing like a very open call for equity. When it comes to leading roles, I know it's easier for. Or at least it's more common for people to sort of slip in that way if it's ensemble auditions or if it's for supporting characters. But
I mean, it's a brutal industry, isn't it?
yeah, it's rough. It's rough. It's hard out there. So, but I was like, I'm gonna go and see what happens. And there was like very few people there because I think everyone probably had the same thought process. They were like, there's no Neil Patrick Harris is doing this show, like Darren Criss, everyone was a star. There's no way they're going to take a pedestrian and like let us play Hedwig. And so they gave me 5 minutes in the room to like just to audition
What did you
whatever
do?
I want. I gave them the choice of singing a song from Taboo by Boy George.
Musical, yes.
Yeah, which I had done for for my senior showcase, or I could sing like a medley of songs from Hedwig that I had also put together. Which I mean, it really wasn't. It was like 2 songs that kind of like ran into each other. I think it was "Wicked Little Town" into Hedwig's Lament.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, it's so good. It might have been flipped, but nonetheless, those 2 great songs, and not the like showy, rocky, like insane rock and roll numbers. They're both like
Both of those are hard to do as well because
Yeah.
that's like pure sadness.
yeah, it's pure emotion.
Yeah.
And I was
Well,
like,
yeah, not sadness, emotion.
right, and to me that felt like the stronger thing to lead with because I was super young, I wasn't famous by any means, but I knew that the thing that I had that I thought was special about, my experience with the character was how deeply I connected with her emotional journey and with like their experience as an individual because I had very similar experiences as a visibly, gender nonconforming person who didn't really feel like they fit in any kind of category. And so they sort of like I gave them the option. They kind of like smugly were like, "Do the Hedwig song," like expecting
Let's
nothing.
see what
Yeah.
you got, you piece of shit.
Literally, that was
You
you.
peasant coming in off the street. You wish to wear the Hedwig wig. Shame on you. Dance for us. No, I'm sure they were lovely.
Yeah, they were very sweet, but it did carry a bit of like a test energy, and I was sort of like, can I use a chair? And I just pulled a chair into the middle of the room and I just sat down and I just sang the songs. Like everybody before me, I could hear them screaming. They were just coming in and being like, yeah! Like,
Going like straight away with midnight radio.
Yeah.
Just these poor people who have been, probably 4 auditions that
Right.
day. Going, yeah, you started.
literally. And so I was kind of like, let's give them something else. Like, let's bring it down. And afterwards, everybody was just like really quiet. And they were like, oh, well, that was great. That was really lovely. We'll see you. Like, okay, bye. It was a very uncomfortable ending for
Our
them.
people will contact your people.
And so I left and like I got a call literally an hour later from my agent, and they were like, Mason's amazing. Do you think that like we can have them come in on Friday for a callback? And so they sent me all the material. It was like 20 pages of material. It was 2 huge monologues and then like 2 of the songs, Tear Me Down and Wicked Little Town, I think. And so so I was like, sure, yeah, I can do that. And I stayed in New York for the week so that I could go. It was a few days later. And I was the first one. It's like bright and early in the morning. And as I was leaving on my way out, there were like I showed up in jeans and like a ratty sweater at literally 9 a.m. And I did all the material and it was so much fun. I had a great time. And they like hugged me and they were really unbelievably kind. And I left and every person, there were like 3 people waiting in full drag, like ready to give a performance.
But this is both good and bad.
Yeah.
They can see them from then that they enjoy the role,
Right.
And but you said that you in like a rip. What sweater jumper. Sorry,
Oh
translating.
yes, a jumper. Sorry.
I mean, I'm hoping this will be an international audience, so we'll say both sweater jumper. Looking kind of grungy, I guess.
Yeah, no, very grunge.
And I just from you saying it straight away, I think that makes more sense because this is a real person. And that's what they want. They need someone who's a real person to do it. And I wouldn't the dressing up as a character thing. Who was it? I can never remember her name from Blade Runner, who played Rachel.
Oh God, I can't remember.
And I'd spoken about this on another podcast that I was a guest on, and her name escapes me. But the woman who played Rachel in Blade Runner auditioned for Catwoman in Batman Returns, and I'm not sure she's well. I will preface with that, and think she turned up as Catwoman.
Amazing.
But I think they maybe I can't see. I'm sure with a little bit of research I'll be able to find it. But I'm just what I think happened is maybe they wouldn't really give her the time, so she turned up at the studio dressed as Catwoman and tried to like tackle Tim Burton to the floor. It was something that might not be the exact, but it was a ridiculous level of. And there's this bizarre. So I'm going on to tangent now. There's this bizarre clip of her like tap dancing on a talk show. And she does this like spoken word piece to the camera to Tim Burton and then cracks a whip. It's all very strange. I'm gonna again like some of this may not be correct, but I remember seeing like my mind may have like morphed this into something else. But I mean, talking to another guest earlier this week, I think I also sort of made up a TV series that I think happened. So some of it might be true, some of it might not. But it's okay. People enjoy these and think Joe's lost their fucking mind. But anyway, yes, turn up to Catwoman doesn't actually work out is the point I'm getting to. You turned up in a like looking very grungy and very real, and then there's all these people dressed as Hedwig outside. In the middle of New York.
I believe there was somebody there who's a well-known actor who was painted by Fame for the audition.
Oh, when they were living in Miss Fame. They were living in New York.
Yeah.
So people paid someone to get them in drag.
Correct.
To go to this audition.
Yeah, unless they might also be like very casual friends, and that could have been part of it too. But yeah, like quite literally, because I remember coming up on a picture of that person. Talking about the process and being like, I like was really grateful to get a chance to audition for this part. It meant a lot to me. Blah 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 blah. This very sweet post, and I don't remember how I came across it, but I believe we have mutual friends, and they had tagged Miss Fame, and they were like, "Thank you for painting my face for this thing." And I was like, "That is amazing," and all that did to me was make me go like, fuck, I showed up like literally, I think I put a little bit of black like eyeshadow on for the most part, but I wanted to give them something very different because I had this feeling, the sneaking suspicion that like, because it's such an iconic role, people really want to put everything that they have into it. And I was like, well, I can put everything that I have into this emotionally and physically as an actor and as a performer. And hopefully that will be enough. And they'll be able to see past my age and be able to, kind of add the drag onto me later, and realize that there is kind of this gender confused broken human being in front of them that isn't wearing all this glitz and glam, and kind of just see the source material.
And it worked.
It worked. Yeah, they literally again they called on their lunch break and they were like, Mason's our front runner, like we really really would love to have them come to the workshops, because for roles like this occasionally they'll set it up in a way where you don't just do traditional callbacks. They'll like legitimately set up a situation where you are actually like doing material from the show in costume or with some
with
sort
other
of
actors and
and so with this show it's a one person show, and so they really wanted to make sure that we could handle it vocally and all of those things. So they like not only taught me the choreography to a bunch of the numbers in heels and all of that stuff, but they also like had me show up to like a kind of it was a recording studio that also had a performance space within it. And I did, like pretty much half an hour of material from the show with the full band behind me and a microphone in drag, like in front of, Stephen Trask and the folks that were sort of, a part of the creation of the show. And it was really surreal to kind of like be in a performance context almost, in your final auditions and really show them what it might look like if you were the person on stage.
I mean, I think that sounds like. I mean, I don't know the whole musical theatre process, and to me that makes the most sense. To go, cool, get you in front of the people that are involved in it, and go, just do it.
Yeah,
like just do the thing, because how are they gonna know you can do the thing unless you do the thing? You could have smashed the audition with those songs, and then you do it, and there's like key elements of it that someone who's there can't do. And so until you're put in that situation, they're never gonna know. And then you smashed it clearly.
Yeah, and then they asked me to do it. I did like 2 of those workshops, and I was doing another show at the same time back in Pittsburgh. So I had to like fly into New York at like 4 a.m, do the audition in the morning, and then fly back to make it in time for the performance at night.
Whoa.
And I was really scared that like I was going to be shit, because I was waking up at like 4 a.m. and then putting drag on like on the train, on the subway, and like it was ridiculous. But I got it and was with that show. I was the standby, so you usually standbys are like very useful in a context where you have a very famous person playing the lead, because they do like 7 shows or whatever, and then the standby usually gets like one of those, the eighth. And so in this context, we had Darren Criss was our first Hedwig, and he had done it on Broadway prior to us like remounting all of it and doing it on tour and everything. So he was very familiar with it, and such a incredible, welcoming person to sort of act with, or never with,
to be
to pretend to be.
Same person.
So I really I adored that process, but that was the beginning of Hedwig, and so since then I've revisited the role and probably will again.
Because you did it when you were not the understudy, didn't you? You were for a production of it. You were the lead.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And we did it recently in DC during the pandemic, so it was one of the few shows that were actually running and having audiences come see it, and that was a really cool time to do Hedwig, because I think she functions best under extreme, like incredible circumstances. Yeah, where you're like, oh, of course this is how you are the one that I'm watching perform, because the world has fallen apart. Like it totally makes sense that in like a post-apocalyptic way that like Hedwig would be the only person that is actually performing, that
she's still going.
Right, like this motherfucker will not stop. So that was really fun, because the given circumstances of the original musical, I think just like fit so well in a COVID context. And then all the jokes are just, it's endless. You can just add in so much material about the last year.
That is, I think that's one of the, you've done the MC from Cabaret as well. We'll get to that, because that's my dream role. So I am here to steal your lifeblood and become you. Lovely. So you sort of done all the sort of dream queer roles in terms of musical theatre, other than, I guess, I mean, I wouldn't even say it was a queer role, Edna Turnblad, but all the kind of drag roles. I mean, I think there are characters that are not undermined by putting people in drag, but Hedwig, Frank, and the MC are kind of some sort of holy trinity of gender ambiguous, bizarre, lots of made up characters. Would you say so?
Yeah, I think that they literally are the Bermuda Triangle of like gender non-conforming queer roles. Yeah. And it's cool because so many different kinds of people can play the parts and sort of approach them from different perspectives. But I think that like having real life experience with gender fuckery, whether that's like, through drag or through like genuine transness or through, kind of being gender queer, like I think that those roles really do sing the best when someone who comes from like a non super cis heteronormative background,
Which I'm assuming a lot of musical theatre is.
yeah. Yeah, in reality, and so it's fun that those parts are so iconic and so famous, but I think that they really, I mean, they just function even more beautifully when someone who has the experience of kind of a gender playful life can embed that into the character's experiences, because it just relates to each individual one, like.
And they're all quite delicious. Like you're saying that
Yeah.
with those experiences with it, it's all of them have just, there's so much depth. And I mean, again, other than I sort of slagged off Frank a little bit, saying they didn't have a lot, but on surface level, Frank is very dangerous. The MC in Cabaret, which I think is possibly the most deliciously wicked, playful, impish, unsettling character in a popular musical theatre show, because it is a popular show. This is not some bizarre off-Broadway independent thing. That character is very much given a spotlight in a huge show.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that for me is sort of that. I mean, there's so many interpretations of it, but every single one really has something that, for me personally, really sets like a fire. And I go, oh, I find it even just looking at someone playing the MC, I find it so meaty. I think is probably it's just, there's so much to get into, and yeah, everyone's approach to it is very different. So your one was on face value quite frightening looking.
Yeah, spooky.
Whereas, so I saw it with Eddie Redmayne in London, and Eddie was very sort of grotesque and contorted, but not that. They were very strange, which I loved, but they weren't that aggressive. Your one, from the clips and videos I've seen, is much more demonic, maybe, I think is. Would you say this is fair?
I definitely would have self-identified as a demon by the end of the show, I think.
It's because you've done it for so long. You were
Yeah,
like,
I was
fuck,
like-
I'm gonna kill all of you.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that that what was fun about that part and the way that it's structured is that like in the first act, I think the show works the best when you forget what's coming.
Yes.
And
So when I saw it recently, I'd sort of, you get led into a false sense of security that everything's it's all very silly and very cabaret, and it's all this, you're at this wonderful show, and da 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 da, and then the end of Act 1 happens, and then Act 2 happens.
and then everyone lives a happily ever after.
Yes. Yes, they do.
Yeah, it makes the ending far more powerful and poignant, I think, if the audience goes along on this ride where they're swept away in the magic of the world, just as the characters are, just as Sally and Cliff are kind of like sucked into the seedy, exciting, kind of fun that is that Weimar time period. Like you need to be swept up in it as an audience as well. So the MC kind of is the conduit of so much of that fun, and so much of that trickery revolves around that character, I think, being deeply charismatic and exciting and juicy and sensual in the beginning, and then turning.
They're a conductor.
Yeah.
It's like or a puppet master, I think, actually is a pretty good explanation on that. In that, also that you were saying, it sort of swept up into the Weimar thing, is that a lot of people, particularly period pieces or references to the period, sometimes don't. They make it look like a hell of a lot of fun without the really horrible bits.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll like, especially things that just use the image or a vibe. They're like, it's all champagne and blah, blah. And then, again, what I like about Cabaret is that it does give you all of that. And you think, oh, this is a life I could live. And you're like, oh no, the Nazis are here. And then it all goes horror. And it's just it's so bleak. And, yeah, bleak is and real, and it's one of those shows that, I mean, everyone always says this when it gets revived. They say this is a show for now. It's really commenting on now, because these unpleasant political things are always happening.
Yeah.
And I don't think it will ever not be relevant.
It's a show that definitely, I mean, the reason that it has survived as long as it has, beyond, kind of being iconic, in the musical theater world, I think is because of the poignancy and the relevancy of, the topics of the conversation that the piece is attempting to have with, an audience will forever be relevant so long as systems, exist where, people are being kind of hunted or politicized, or people are being complicit. Like every theme that we experience in most, I think, countries that are kind of having strange political uproars.
I don't think anyone is politically settled anywhere.
No, and that's why the show hits, to this day, because like when I was doing, the role, it was during like the peak of the Trump administration, and watching an audience in America kind of grapple with the conversations around, white nationalism and Nazis, in a time where we were having those same conversations in real time, was harrowing and is something unlike anything I've ever experienced.
And the show has a way of you mentioned the word complicit.
Mm-hmm.
There is certainly a moment in. I mean, in your one, there's a few moments, but in the one I saw, there's one particular moment. I don't want to give it away because the production is still going on, but where the audience they would go, and what part would you play in this? Straight to the face. And you had a lovely one. I don't know if it's, again, I don't want to spoil it, but is it online? Your whole production. So you'll be able to see. Search Mason Alexander Park Cabaret. I'm sure it will pop up. But it's the show really does put a mirror to the audience.
Yeah. I
mean, in your one, quite literally, yes, quite literally, a giant, beautiful, but quite reflective fuck off mirror.
Yeah, and that's in the original production, like how Prince had the whole back of the stage was a massive mirror that would tilt so the audience could really see themselves by the end of the night, and that to me is what the show is. Like, it really does revolve around trying to energize and wake the audience up in a way by being like, these atrocities have happened, you just like witnessed all of it in front of you, and you know what happens in this story, and you had a real great time like with all the other stuff, so what are you going to do about it now? Like what can you as an audience member do about this?
And that is where the audience are left,
and that's when they go, well, I'm going to grab my shit and I'm going to go.
Yeah, where did we park the car?
I'm going to go home.
But I mean, cabaret as an art form in general, I think has a way of holding a mirror to people. I mean, it's sort of threepenny opera as well for the time. That's sort of what, like 1928, 29. It's a satire of current day, and cabaret as a genre, and particularly singers and people who speak more, I think, have an easier way of using that method because they've got sort of longer form things with it. But yeah, cabaret as a genre, just it's always sort of held that, and I find that it has, variety shows in particular have like little bursts of popularity again, particularly in times of recession.
Yeah.
Which is a threepenny opera. The idea is that it could be put on cheap, anyone could go see it.
Exactly.
A catchy theme, everyone knew it. You could go afford to see it because it was always, the productions were cheap, and these things boom at times of economic recession. And at the moment, the UK is fucked, so my career is going to go great.
Yeah, you're golden, baby.
Oh, everyone's poor. It's time for some cabaret. A bit of a curveball now, right? So you've done all the queer roles.
Got them all.
You got them all, and you thought, you know what? Now it's time to get on, the television. Let's take those ones again. So I've taken all the ones in musical theatre, and you've told me this, and I don't know if you've said this in interviews before. Maybe you have, of how exactly you landed the audition for Sandman because I think it is
Oh
the most
yeah.
gloriously cheeky thing. And it's not even cheeky. Well, it's not cheeky. It's you're just not. If you don't ask, you don't get. Would you like to tell everyone how exactly you got your Sandman audition?
Yeah, I was in New Zealand getting ready to shoot a show for Netflix called Cowboy Bebop. And I we had to quarantine for 2 weeks because it was peak COVID. Like this was fall of 2020. So no one really had a handle on these things. We didn't have vaccines yet. And the only way for them to get us into the country was for us to like literally go on essential workers contracts, because we were bringing in so much money for the local economy to help them like rebuild with, anytime a production moves somewhere on location, like the money that they bring in is outstanding. And for a show like this, it's, tens of hundreds of millions of dollars that like were to be had. And that's a really good thing in moments of crisis when you're trying
Yeah,
to
when the whole world is shut down, New
Right.
Zealand's like, let's make a pretty penny.
Yeah, they're like, all right, like, we can make a movie or two. So it was like it was us and Sweet Tooth, and Lord of the Rings, I believe, were the three.
New Zealand keeps getting this Lord of the Rings money, doesn't it?
They love Lord of the Rings. It was just like, it's a no brainer. I wanted to be in it so bad. When I was there, sidebar, I kept telling my agent, I was like, can I just I just want to be an elf. Like I will hire me as an extra. I just want to be in the background of a scene with pointy ears. Please, dear God.
And that didn't happen.
Yeah, it never happened.
So what did you do with your time instead? You harass certain authors online.
I harassed a certain author online. I was like towards the end of my quarantine, I was starting to lose it. You just kind of the way that it worked there, it was so strict. You got off the plane and there were people in like camouflage, like army folk came up and escort you through the airport, help you get your bags and all that stuff. And then they either put you directly in a hotel that's at the airport or on a bus to a hotel that's, a part of the program. And you sit there for 2 weeks and they drop food off right outside your door and knock, for every meal. And you're allotted like maybe an hour of outdoor time or something, a day, and you have to sign up for it and stuff. It was very interesting. And so you're just isolated. You're in these tiny little rooms at an airport, and eventually I think most people start to kind of get a little stir crazy. Yeah. You start to crack. And so I was at that point and I was just kind of thinking about what was next. I had done like some callbacks from my hotel room because there were other projects that were kind of coming around that time, things I couldn't do, things I really wanted to do but like weren't working out with the Cowboy Bebop schedule. And I was getting a little stressed and I was like, all right, well, I would love to find something cool to do after Cowboy Bebop. And I've been following Neil for eons and he was tweeting. It was one of those days where he was just sort of talking a lot about Sandman in particular. And he was like, yeah, we just started filming it like a week ago, blah, blah, blah. And he had just released a lot of kind of newfound information. And it reminded me essentially that Sandman was even being made because I had forgotten that it was in the works. And I was like, oh my God, I forgot that this thing was a thing that was happening. Usually they would have a cast, I'm sure, by now, but maybe because Desire doesn't really come in until later on in the first, few comics, that like they haven't found that actor yet because like they wouldn't be starting in the middle, on the shoot. I'm just going to tweet him and I'm going to ask. And so at like 4 a.m, New Zealand time, I was like, hey, Neil. So,
Hey, Neil.
hi, Neil. Would you happen to know, is Desire going to make an appearance in season 1? And if so, have you found that actor yet? Wink, wink. And he replied within 15 minutes and was just kind of like, yeah, Desire is going to be in season 1 because it goes all the way through A Doll's House, which is, Desire's first like big storyline. And then and this is the information for our casting director who's wonderful. And I was like, oh my God, okay, so I guess let me call my agents.
So okay, let's do a recap and paint this picture. You're starting to slowly lose your mind
Yes.
in a hotel in New Zealand. You're getting meals dropped off a few times a day with a knock on the door, and only left outside for an hour. And then you're like, all right, I'm gonna try and be Desire.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask like the greatest living author if I can be in his TV show.
And then you phoned your agent and you said, "Get me the Endless."
Literally, I was like, "Please, this means a lot to me. I want this. See if you can, get the ball rolling because I'll do whatever it takes." And I started listening to the audiobook because it had just come out, and I was like, it was the thing that I would listen to while I took my hour-long walk because it was this tiny. They fenced in the hotel first of all, like it was a zombie apocalypse, and so you're like looking at these massive fences and walking kind of just in a circle around the fence.
This just sounds like you were in prison.
It was.
Have you actually been to prison?
It
Is this
was
what's
kind of
happening
prison
here?
adjacent. It was. We called it the Yard because it was hilariously like small and prison-like.
You're there working out in the corner, like,
Literally,
tattoo of a tear on your face.
people were like running in the tiniest circles, like as fast as they could, doing push-ups,
Trying
like,
to run away
it
from the
was-
problems. Yeah.
trying to run away from COVID. They're like, I don't want to catch this.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna run in a circle. But it was funny because it was like you'd walk out the door and there was a handful of people like smoking in the corner, and then the rest of the people were just either like walking with like a book or something, trying to like make sure that their I don't know bones didn't turn to mush in the time that they were inside because we couldn't like use the gym or anything, and there was no room in the actual rooms to. Like I could barely do yoga in that room. Like I could put down a small yoga mat and do like sit-ups, but there's nothing. And so
A bit.
So yeah, that hour was very important to everybody. And I would listen to the audiobook on my walk. And I just got really excited for it. And then we started filming Cowboy Bebop, and that took a few months. And I completely forgot about, the Sandman.
But you had done an audition.
I hadn't done anything
Oh,
yet.
okay.
Yeah, I just told my agents to try to see what they could do. And so weeks go by. I think like maybe 2 months go by before I hear anything back. And it's like I'm in the middle of shooting, a bunch of my stuff as Gren, and it's a really busy week. And they're like, okay, so by the way, they're willing to, they want
Here's
to
the
see
thing.
you. Here's the sides, like shoot the audition and send it back like in the next 24 hours. Which was tight.
Yeah, you are currently in space.
I'm literally
with
in outer
John
space.
Cho. It's John Cho, isn't it?
John Cho was
Yeah.
fully in outer space with me.
Yeah, you're in outer space with John Cho and a Pomeranian, and no, it's a corgi, isn't it?
It was a corgi, but a Pomeranian would have been amazing.
See, again, it's one of those things that I wasn't familiar with Cowboy Bebop, and then you were in it. I was like, I'm gonna watch this. I enjoyed it very much. Anyway, so you're in space with John Cho and a corgi, and they're like, right, get back to Earth.
Yeah.
You've got 24 hours.
Shoot this thing. So I asked Tamara Tooney, who plays Anna on Bebop, who runs the bar that I like mainly exist in. She was also a fan of Sandman and like discovered it when she was younger and was like so taken by death and was like, oh, I would love to play that character one day. If they ever made it into a movie or a TV show. And so I was like, well, they're making it into a movie or a TV show. Will you help me get one of the other Endless? And so she read Despair. It was a scene between Desire and Despair. And she read it with me and was delicious and so spooky and so good. And I did it like 3 times with her. And I was like, I don't know if it'll get any better. Like, it's just, I like to be the kind of person that just tries it and then sends it off and hopes that like enough of who I am is good enough to make the thing,
It's a very healthy approach.
Yeah, as opposed to like I feel like it's easy to spiral it.
Oh, I mean, the very few auditions I've done, I will keep doing and keep doing and keep doing, and then I'll stress over the best one,
Mm-hmm.
and then send it off, and then I'll be like horrified that I even attempted to do it because it took me so many times to do it because I was criticizing every little thing.
Yeah.
And actually, the one thing I got was that Life After Life series, and I did that in like one take, the audition, and I got it. But anything that I've tried really hard, never got.
Yeah, that's in my experience. The things that came to me the easiest were the ones that I spent the less like critical energy on, and the ones that I just kind of enjoyed and did really fast and didn't like spend too much time, like memorizing or breaking it down in like a really intense way, because like I don't know. I find that, yeah, I will go down the hole and I will just spend hours on something. And that's not necessarily healthy if what all that you're doing all the time is auditioning for things. And it clearly wasn't really working for me as well as my current approach, because like my whole life has dramatically shifted ever since I've like decided to enjoy the process of auditioning more and not like make it every single thing. And, so I kind of just like had fun with it and did a few and was like, this is going to be one of these will be good enough. And I rewatched them and I was like, oh, my eyelash is literally falling off in all of these. So can you come back downstairs and let's just do one? I just promise I'll just ask for one and that's it. And so she came downstairs and I did one after I fixed my eyelash, and then that's the one that I sent in. And I heard back a few weeks later. It was like I literally, I think 2 or 3 days after I finished Cowboy Bebop, and I landed in Los Angeles, and my agent was like, "Your desire, you got it. No call back or anything."
How does that make you feel when you get that call? You're just like, oh, I'm very tired. I've just been filming Cowboy Bebop, and then your agent goes, "Hello, you are one of the endless."
I geeked out so hard, like. I don't know. That was one of the coolest. 'Cause, I mean, they've all been very special. I remember the feeling of getting Cowboy Bebop, and I remember the feeling of getting this show. But there was just something really special. I was like sleeping on my best friend's couch, like being as unglamorous as I possibly can, and it was just a really cool thing to like wake up very early in the morning to like a nice phone call from my agent who's like, yeah, I have no information other than you're the part.
No recall, no second,
yeah,
just straight.
Yeah,
perfect. Do you know who else went for it?
I don't.
Because
I should ask.
Yeah, because so is there anything you've gone for that you really and you didn't get, and you look and you see that person playing it and you think, I fucking hate you.
I'm sure there has been. I feel like I remember that feeling, but it's all so far away that I don't necessarily. There's definitely been parts that I've auditioned
What you're
for.
trying to say in a polite way is, I'm Desire now, fuck all of you. You're like, I got
I
this.
How dare you? No, I quite literally am drawing a blank because I know the emotion. I know what it feels like to like really want a thing and then see the person that gets it and then be like, damn.
Would you say you desired it?
That. I would have been really upset, I think. Or not really upset, but I would have been really sad to see this part kind of slip through.
I mean, clearly you were right for it.
My clammy
is
fingers.
Is there something you've auditioned for and then you've seen it afterwards and gone, no, actually they were right?
Oh, yeah, that's totally probably happened.
No big.
I can't remember
big queer
anything I've
villain
auditioned
roles.
for. I literally can't remember anything important that I've auditioned for. Yeah, I mean, the most recent, I remember like before Quantum Leap, I was kind of auditioning for a few things. And I remember like going in for like the Queer as Folk reboot and stuff, and like knowing people who were involved in that.
Not anime.
No, completely not where I've been.
You're staying in the geek world now,
yeah,
they will look after you so well.
Yeah, the actual queers are like, fuck off. Go back to Nerdland.
Go back to space, loser.
But like the cast that the people that they put in those parts, I'm like, oh yeah, that's totally seems like so much fun. But yeah, there aren't really any iconic roles I think that I've lost that I would have that would have completely changed my life if I really think back that I didn't end up getting.
I would say you're a very fortunate person,
as
well. But I mean, it is talent as well. I'm not in any way suggesting that this is all just being handed to you. And I just think it's so lovely to see that sort of queer success, because it would have been very easy for them to throw this to a sort of heteronormative, cisgendered man.
Yeah.
A lot of these roles. So I think it's one of those things that I think I mean, you probably get it now, the messages, but I think there are going to be people looking, particularly at Desire, because it's a totally genderless role, and all sort of visibly queer, aspiring people who want to get into acting and look and go, there is a place for me. Look at them.
Yeah.
Look at them. And I think that's going to be absolutely, I can't wait to see it.
I hope so, because I wouldn't be in this industry if it weren't for those moments, myself. Like if it weren't for Hedwig, for instance, if I had never seen someone like John Cameron Mitchell, play a role that is so dynamic.
But there also would have been people that saw you.
Yeah.
And then I love that cycle of
Yeah.
of the people that inspire, and then there's ones that were inspired go on to inspire, and it's just that's what keeps it all alive and beautiful. And I think have you had a moment where you've gone, I've made it?
No, not professionally. I feel like part of the fun is there never ever being an it,
Yeah, I find that's because I think for some people they'll I guess with acting stuff it's kind of post the fact that people go, oh no, that was the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, when Sandman comes out, I think because my sort of like fame is reality TV, so it's very, very different kind of being recognized.
Right.
So I'm curious how because this show's going to be unbelievably huge. We know this, right? I'm curious how your life is going to change on the kind of day-to-day because of it, and because you're playing such an integral character to it.
I hope that I think that I'll be able to slip under the radar still a little bit, because thankfully Desire is so heightened and like beautiful, and in real life I'm kind of like this scrummy little gremlin person with glasses. So I think that like the only identifying feature will be my hair, because like normally,
I mean, you do have the
day-to-day,
same face.
I do have the same face.
You are the same person.
I am the same person, but like Desire's made up and like in a beautiful like catsuit like costumes and that sort of thing, and like I feel like glasses change everything. I put on
Yes,
these
they
little.
do.
I'm like Superman. Look at fucking Superman. Clark Kent.
You're super
No one
them.
knows who he is.
You're super them.
Yeah, exactly.
Super them.
I am the super them. So I think that like Mason Alexander Park is the Clark Kent, persona. Like my day to day, I might be able to slip through things for a while. Because Quantum Leap is the only show in my entire career where I'm going to probably look like myself, like fully like just my day-to-day basic self. Because I do look like Desire at times, like when I want to and when I'm putting a little more effort in. But on average, like I don't want to put contacts in my eyes if I don't have to.
Same.
So because of that, I don't really wear a lot of makeup and like because like the combination of like round specs and like a lip don't always.
Oh, I think
work
it's got
for
a
me.
gorgeously Weimar quality to it. I mean, you saying slipping under the radar. You keep going to comic book shops and buying issues of the Sandman.
Yeah.
So I think you are putting yourself in these
positions.
Yeah.
Well, that's on purpose. I feel like now's my chance. I'm like,
Do it
now's
now.
the time that I can enjoy the comic book experience, like the comic book store experience, and kind of be, quiet and unnoticed and buy things that I enjoy. And also, I've been trying to collect a full
Oh, and
set.
you nearly had a full set of Sandman, didn't you? You were missing
did.
one issue, and that issue was just so impossible to find, wasn't it?
Yeah, I've looked high and low, and it's a very expensive issue because it's Death's first appearance, number 8. And a dear friend, I don't know if you know Joe Black, but they found it at a local comic book store.
I did.
in Brighton.
I went in there, and me with my no Sandman knowledge fucking mouth walked in. I went, "Hello, mate. Have you got a friend of mine's looking for Sandman? I think it's 8. It's Death's first appearance. You wouldn't happen to have it?" And then the man pulled down a box, and there it was. And then I said, "Can you hold that for me for a second? I just need to send a text." And then I texted you and I said, "I have found number 8," and you just said, "Oh, take it," all in capital letters. And I went and I went back and got it, and then sent you a lovely text and said you are now the proud owner of Sandman number 8.
Yeah, you completed my my Sandman collection. I've only been getting them in person from, comic book stores that I can actually visit
And support. That's lovely as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
It supports
well,
the.
it's nice. It's better than like, I remember buying like a bunch of the like thick collections and stuff online, and I was kind of like, it'd be really nice to support like local shops and not just collect everything from the internet. So I started in Nova Scotia because I was visiting Alice while she was shooting The Sinner. And plug. See it on Netflix.
They are
worldwide.
Yeah, they are fantastic.
It's so spooky and so good. But yeah, so Alice was shooting The Sinner for about 6 months in Nova Scotia, and I went and visited after I finished The Sandman. And I went on an errand, and there was a comic book store, across the street, and I popped in, and I asked for pretty much everything that they had, which was a
Give
lot.
me all your Sandman.
It was a lot of Sandman, but they gave me like I think about 20 issues for free, and I was so honored, but I also felt so bad.
But the cast announcement had happened by this point.
Right. So like it was in the
It wasn't
zeitgeist.
just you were a random person that walked in, and then the proprietor of the comic book shop went, "You there?
Yes.
You with the blonde hair. Take these books."
Ma'am, would you like these books?
Jinx, so it's a bit of a side thing, is that Jinx, because they're also very, non-binary and sort of gender ambiguous visually, people go, "Ma'am, sir, ma'am, sir,
Ma'am?
sir, ma'am," and then people sort of flip between it. So I'm now imagining a "Ma'am, sir, ma'am, sir, hello,
Hello. You? Yeah.
you, human."
You there. Small boy lady child.
Oh, that was a good laugh. But anyway, they said, "You there, non-binary person looking
Yes.
at the comic books, your desire."
Human of indiscriminate gender. What are you? Yeah, they gifted me all of these things because I was Desire, and it was so lovely. And they were like, "Would you?" All we ask is that you just take a picture, just in the comic book store. And I was like, "Fuck yeah, I'll take it." What do you? I was like, "I'll sign shit. Like, what do you want? I'll do anything for you at this point. You just
Take
gave
a
me
picture
a
of my
bunch
face,
free.
put it on the door.
Literally, I will do it. I'll be in the commercial. I'll do an ad. Like, let's just. And so, and I saw on my way out that they had a number 1 on the wall for like, $200 or something. And I was like, well, they gave me all this free stuff. I want that. I'm going to take that. And that trip began, the collection process. Because I had bought number 1, and they'd given me like, at least 20 others. And I was like, this is, maybe I should do this. There's only 75. Like, I can complete this. And lo and behold, like a year and a half later, or a year later, I've finally, thanks to you, put the final one in
It took for someone who has never read a graphic novel or comic book in their life to just casually wander in and go, "Do you have this for my friend?" And we did it, and I am so proud. And I'll when I'm watching Sandman, and that when you appear, I'll think, I'm so pleased I was able to, in a small way, be a part of that kind of complete experience for you.
Yeah, you bookended the whole collection for me. It's fantastic.
I met you when you were over here filming it.
Yeah.
And the next time you come, I complete your collection. So I am
You are the
Neil
Sandman.
Gaiman. And then this is where I pull my skin off. "Hello, Mason."
Pulls off
I
mask.
can't. Actually, I can't. I know Neil Gaiman's English. I'm trying to think what he sounds like. Hang on. Oh, I can hear it, but I
Yeah.
can't do it.
It's iconic and really hard to duplicate.
No, I can't do it. There's an amazing story I've got on vinyl of him reading this story about a ghost story in Brighton with the Evening with Neil Gaiman and Amanda Palmer thing. And that's what's going on in my head. I can hear him saying the word Brighton. I can't do it. Before we wrap up, I've got two questions.
Yes.
Is there one thing you've done specifically that you are like the most proud of?
Ooh. God, that's hard because I'm so unbelievably proud of Sandman and so proud of Hedwig. I think the answer a while ago would have definitely been Hedwig, just because it was kind of a life altering thing for me as an actor to sort of find a piece of art, fall in love with it, pursue, that thing, and then finally get it. And get a chance to meet all of these heroes, these people that were so instrumental not only in developing my voice as an artist, but also like my vernacular and my voice in my body as an individual. Like without Hedwig, it would have taken me, I think, even longer to have an understanding of my gender identity and my understanding of being a non-binary individual. And so I think that like that was always the easy answer, because it really did just change everything for me. But I did do this film very recently that I think is going to become that. Hopefully, it depends. When I see it, I'll let you know.
Yeah, all very post again, like we were saying back, it's post the fact stuff.
Yeah.
And then not necessarily I've made it moment, but then you look at it and go, that was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that hopefully is a project that I feel that way for, because I just had such a reverence for the character and for the people that were making it, and it really is a beautiful film. So I don't know. I think that might take the top prize eventually.
Yeah, I think maybe I've asked too hard a question, because you've just been so damn good in everything, and so damn, and everything. The thing is, the stuff you've done is so feels so correct for you as an individual and as a human, as an artist. That I think it's very easy for you to be proud of everything, because everything was so correct for you.
Yeah.
And I think that's. I mean, I've got a lovely positive way of spinning these things, and I look at me go.
That's really nice.
No, and I think it's true. I'm not bullshitting you. I speak my truth, no the truth. And the other thing I want is there something that is not yet made, that maybe an adaptation of something or a role or something that you're like, if they ever do that, I want to be this?
Yeah, there's a handful of things, and in different mediums, I think too, like
Stage,
yeah,
screen.
stage and screen. And one of the biggest ones I think for me is, I don't know if you know anything about Kiss of the Spider Woman, but
I'm little bit.
Yeah.
Cheetah Rivera.
yeah, Cheetah Rivera was the original Spider Woman. It's a remarkable. I mean, there's a musical, there's a play, there's a movie, and there's a book, and it comes from a book. And in the story, especially if you go back to the source material, the lead character is a transgender individual. They are a gender nonconforming individual who is in prison because of their identity. And it's a remarkable film and stage show. And I think it would make a really cool, like, independent film musical. And so I'm kind of lobbying to see that get made at one point, because I want to play that part so
Netflix.
bad. Yes,
Come on, Netflix.
Mr. Netflix.
Mr. That's the official
yeah.
head, Mr. Netflix.
Yes, Mr. Netflix. Yeah,
Mrs. Netflix, Mr. Netflix, MX
Mix
Netflix,
Netflix.
Mix Netflix,
It's hard to say mix
Netflix Junior.
Netflix. Netflix.
And what would be the film TV one, the screen one?
Well, I think that would be the
actually,
screen one.
said, yeah.
And then stage wise, I want to do Frank on Broadway really bad. I want to bring Rocky Horror back to Broadway.
Oh,
for fun.
again,
just for some shenanigans.
This Sandman thing, I've got a feeling in my bones
Some spooky
that you're gonna be. I'm also excited for, like, because I follow a lot of geeks and things, and I've already seen friends talking about the Sandman trailer coming out. I can't wait to just watch everyone I know be horny for you.
Oh, I hope they get real nasty.
Oh, they're gonna be nasty, right? On that note, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure to chat to you. And I'm glad I could catch you while you were here before you can't leave the house because everyone's baying to have sexual relations with you. Thank you for joining me.
Thank
you ready to make out? Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
And that's that. Thank you very much for listening. What a joy it was to talk to Mason. one of my favorites to record. It was so fun. Listening back, I was like, oh, this is nice. Yeah, I loved it. So yeah, be sure to follow me and Mason on the socials. Please rate and subscribe the podcast. 5 stars, please. And this 10 is an option. And I'm going on tour with Club Cataclysm in October and November 2022. So please do come to that, unless it's in the future, in which case use a time machine. Yes. And then next week we're returning with another guest, which is one that when they said yes, I died a little inside because I was just so shocked that we managed to get them. So I shall see you next week. Love you, okay? Love you. Goodbye. 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 Goodbye now. Bye-bye now. Bye. Bye. Goodbye now. Bye-bye. Bye.